Hey, it's Corrina, and today I want to tell you about 5 foods that were actually designed to make you overeat. So when the big food executives get together, they're competing for what they call stomach share. That's like how much of your stomach can they fill up with their foods. And they actually design the foods to be addictive and to make you overeat. So today I want to tell you about some of those foods, and I hope that as we talk about these foods and how they're designed to help you overeat, that you will actually feel empowered to stop eating these foods and stop letting these food executives take up so much of your stomach share. This video is brought to you by Veestro, gourmet plant-based meals delivered right to your door. So these meals are fully prepared, and you can even order a full meal plan where they will actually design an entire week or 2 weeks of food and meals for you. These are incredibly nutrient-dense meals made with organic ingredients, non-GMO ingredients, and you can even customize gluten-free, kosher, and other dietary restrictions that you might have. So when you're looking for meals that are going to satisfy your hunger, these nutrient-dense plant-based meals are a really great way to go. I hope you'll try them out, and if you do, be sure to come back and let me know what you thought. So let's get into our first food designed to make you overeat, and that is Lay's potato chips. So there's a concept in food science, so the people who are designing manufactured foods like these, they're not called cooks, they're not called chefs, they're called food scientists. And they actually developed something called vanishing caloric density that they use specifically to make you overeat. So vanishing caloric density is a technique that they specifically use to trick your body into eating more food than it normally would. So a strong mouth feel and mouth sensation, like a big crunch and a big salty flavor, followed by the food quickly diminishing in your mouth, or melting in your mouth, you could say. So this vanishing caloric density actually tricks your body into not having any idea how much food it's actually consumed. And it's one of the reasons that you could sit there and eat a huge bag of Lay's potato chips, but if you sat there and actually tried to eat a couple of potatoes, you might only be able to eat 1, maybe 2 potatoes at the most before your body would fill up. But this vanishing caloric density actually tricks you into eating way more than you actually should. To add insult to injury, we then have a food like Doritos. So now they've taken the concept of vanishing caloric density and they've added on MSG. And there's a lot of other flavors here too, but I just want to hone in on MSG, or monosodium glutamate. This is a chemical that they actually use to give rats diabetes in a laboratory setting. So when they need diabetic rats so that they can do these different lab tests on diabetes or diabetes medications, they actually need a way to turn a rat, a regular healthy rat, into a diabetic rat. And what they do is give them MSG because they know that it makes you overeat. It's one of these really strong sensations that gives us that really big dopamine rush when we eat the food, but then it's also there because it kind of tricks us into eating more than we should. So, food number 3 is white bread, or in this case, flour tortillas. Now, have you ever noticed that whole wheat bread is brown? Well, the reason that whole wheat bread is brown is because of all of those ingredients that are contained in the wheat grain that lend it that color. Now, those can be nutrients, a lot of that is fiber, and the thing about white bread is that they've actually removed all of that from the bread in order to make it more starchy and white, right? So what you want to look for on the label is something called enriched flour, or enriched bleached, or sometimes it'll say enriched unbleached flour. Anytime you see that word enriched, what it means is they've taken the whole wheat grain, they've removed a certain part of the wheat grain, and they will add nutrients back into the food just so that your body can digest it, and they call that enriched. But the problem is what they remove from the wheat grain is what satisfies you. So this enriching process that you find in white bread and flour tortillas and things like that is actually designed to make you overeat because they've taken out the fiber and taken out a lot of the nutrients. So always opt for whole grain or whole wheat breads when you have that opportunity. And if you start looking for that enriched flour, you're gonna see it everywhere. Do your best to avoid it. So along the same lines, we could talk about things that have the fat removed from them, like reduced fat peanut butter, fat-free yogurt, fat-free milk, right? This is a big trend, but actually when you remove the fat from the food, you remove the main thing that satisfies our hunger. So the good fats that we get from things like nuts, are a really important part of actually stimulating that satiety process that sends the messages to our brain to tell us that we're full, to tell us to stop eating. So if you're eating fat-free and low-fat foods, you're probably gonna notice that you are overeating in the carbohydrate and protein department. But don't demonize fats. Okay, especially the natural fats that are present in things like peanuts or other nuts. When you're eating those fat-free foods, you're actually dooming yourself to end up overeating something else. So moving on to our last food, this one is kind of a double whammy. So I've got M&Ms and I have this gigantic Reese's stuffed big cup that actually has Reese's Pieces in it. So there's a couple things that I want to tell you, and you probably didn't need me to tell you that candy makes you overeat, but I want to help you understand why, okay? So one factor is a big blood sugar spike. So anytime we eat something that spikes our blood sugar up really, really quickly, the body totally panics. Okay, and it releases all this insulin so it can bring the blood glucose level back down. When that happens, there tends to be kind of an overshooting. So the body will actually produce so much insulin that now your blood sugar level starts to dip back into that zone of hunger. So you have this problem where you're spiking your blood sugar by eating something with a whole lot of sugar, or drinking a soda is another good example. But then your body reacts by actually sinking your blood sugar back down so low that you get done with your M&Ms and you probably walk back to the fridge because now you're feeling genuinely hungry. Okay, we can also talk about something like Reese's peanut butter cups. Well, here we have something that we might think is more healthy because it contains peanut butter. But remember what we said about the fat-free peanut butter and the fact that most of these companies are competing for your stomach share. They're competing to try to make you eat as much food as possible. So a lot of times these different foods will actually contain fat-free milk, fat-free peanut butter, so you're not even getting the healthy fats from the food that could maybe fill you up. So between the blood sugar spike, between the empty calories, so there's no nutrients coming from this food, we also, with M&Ms, have that vanishing caloric density that we talked about right at the beginning. Have you ever eaten more M&Ms than you thought you could have eaten? Chances are you have, and it's because these foods are designed to have that effect. I really hope that this video has empowered you to make some healthier choices and to stop giving your stomach share to these big food companies. If you are interested in trying some nutrient-dense foods that actually will satisfy your hunger and will prevent you from overeating, I encourage you to try out Veestro and just aim for eating real foods that haven't been processed, that haven't had a bunch of crazy stuff added to them, and you'll be amazed at how much easier it is to control your eating and control your weight, not to mention all the other aspects that come in here, like our mood, our energy. All of these things can be drastically affected just by making healthier choices. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.